Hello guys, welcome back to another video by mykayaplus. So I think there has been a big event that just happened over the weekend, and of course, if you are unaware what happened, it was actually state elections for a few states in Malaysia. But nevertheless, I think the anticipation and the attention that the parties that took part in the election, and also um, the people who are involved in the voters themselves, have been also quite excited about the state elections. And of course, we won't dive through too detailed, but basically, I think overall, as an overall results, it was expected. So most of the parties won back their respective states, right? But from an investment point of view, or from an investor point of view, Chubei, what does this mean? And is there any positive note or negative note post-election?
Yeah, I think just to give a summary, of course, I think the result is three versus three,
Mm-hmm.
sort of like a status quo where Pakatan Harapan and the BN coalition they managed to retain the three state, which is Negeri Sembilan, Selangor, and also Penang. And of course, for Perikatan Nasional, they managed to actually expand their influence a little bit by winning. I mean, they technically can call it as a landslide victory in Kelantan, Terengganu, and also Kedah. But of course, if you talk about investment, the thing that we are going to share is just a personal opinion. Please do not take this as a buy or sell uh, advice from us. Please do your due
Yep.
diligence before you dive into any decision. But then just a quick snapshot. So this is the third working day after the completion of state election. Today's Wednesday, and then the market actually reacted. I would say somewhat positive, but in a very calm manners. The KLCI actually grew up a little bit since Monday. There's also a few things that you can treat it like a signals. If you look into, of course, the scene stocks, the Carlsberg Brewery Malaysia and also Heineken Malaysia, perhaps it actually reacted slightly positive. It didn't drop in the first, the 3 days after the completion of state election. And of course, if you go into the another type of scene stocks, which is Sport Totals per heart and also Magnum per heart, it reacted quite positively. Probably due to all these things has come into a conclusion. At least the state election won't have a very clear impacts to the federals. So I think from the outsider perspective, they will deem this as a stable government to be able to stay in power. They can make some changes throughout the next at least 3 to 5 years until the next general election. Another example, which is Genting Berhad, also Genting Malaysia, reacted also quite positively in the past 2 3 days, right? So I would say overall the sentiment was okay, technically related to the anticipation of a stabler the political situation in Malaysia, right? But then on the other hand, if you look into the currency performance, it technically dropped a little bit for Malaysia ringgit against USD and also Singapore dollar. And of course, we also do a fun fact sharing. A lot of people deem that ASP is a Anwar Ling stocks. Of course, it actually dropped quite a little bit for the past few days. Right. So, nevertheless, nothing surprises us after the things, but we wanted to highlight there's a few things also impacting the overall stock performance in Malaysia. Probably people can add on later. Technically, the second quarter's GDP performance of Malaysia is going to be announced soon. So probably after they know state election is settled down, a lot of people also take a step back and actually want to check out what is the actual economic performance for quarter two before they make any further decision. So when I talk about this thing, it's not the retail investor, more like the foreign investor, whether they will pump in additional fund or not. So this is something they technically will wait for the announcement of the Q2 GDP result before they can make anything. But in the meanwhile, something to anticipate after a stabler government, which is a few initiatives that is coming very soon. So for one example is, I think 1 to 2 weeks ago, we used to cover this in our previous video as well, is a so-called National Energy Transition Roadmap. Phase 1 is officially launched by Rafizi's together with his teams, right? So we will probably will look into this in a little bit details and then do a special coverage about this program. And I think that you should take a look if you're trying to actually understand what is going to happen into Malaysia economies. The so-called new industry master plan will be announced soon as well, targeted September, by the MITI departments. And this is another one that actually will give some positive impact and some new games rules to stimulate the overall Malaysia economic performance. So this is a few things to anticipate. Overall, I would say these elections, it basically give you some sort of settle downs. And right now we can actually focus into the performance of each ministry and see all the so-called grand plan they have, whether have any positive impacts towards Malaysia economics or not. I mean, Jupan got anything to add on?
Yeah, I do think in some aspects stability has come to play. I think more towards the foreign investor side, because if you take a look from a Malaysian point of view, state elections anyway wouldn't have garnered so much momentum that it would lead to a snap election from a federal government point of view. Because I think during the campaign, a lot of the sentiments or the opinions coming from the opposition party coalition is that, yeah, they want to actually push to, topple down the current federal government through the people's voice. But nevertheless, if you look at it from a very layman point of view, the states elections were supposed to happen in states, and it didn't involve any federal government or potential changes. That said, I do think that Malaysia politics can be a little bit relatively unstable compared to other places in the world. But now that the chapter is over, at least one concern is settled. But I think now the general big concern is how the global economy is going to head to, right? What's the direction? What are the so-called pitfalls, or what are the risks? And Malaysia as a country, like it or not, will definitely be affected if the global economy does slow down eventually. So I think that is just something Malaysia investors should take note of. It's a good page to turn around one concern over, but what is the upcoming concerns for the upcoming 4 months, or even the upcoming year of 2024 and beyond?
Yeah, I think just to add on a few points, technically with a more stable governments, the government actually will be able to focus into something to stimulate the overall economies. So one of the potential tactic that the government can do to stimulate the whole economy is to have mega projects. So we used to cover this topic as well, which is the HSR, high-speed rail that connect between, of course, Bandar Malaysia, the new township they plan to have in KL, all the way to Singapore in just 90 minutes. So if you're interested to find out what is it about and what is the so-called update for the reactivation of the HSR, you can check out to the link in the description.
Yep.
But other than that, this is one example. So I believe with all these things come to an end, there will be more mega projects to come in to stimulate the economy. But other than that, you also need to actually take a step back. Whatever thing that able to link to a government or link to any policy is something that you cannot predict. But whatever thing that you can see is from the fundamentals performance, whether this company have a good cash value, able to bring in consistent performance. So all these things is something that you should always check on before you invest into the company, else it will be as good as a gamble. For example, you can see people say, I make some return because I invest into the same stocks before the election. Technically, you are making a quick gamble. And this quick gamble got no fundamentals because we don't know how the state election will actually come out. Of course, the result right now seems to be status quo. So this is something to take note before you try to do anything, go into a specific company. Fundamentals analysis is always the core thing that you can rely on, uh,
Mhm.
even from a short-term to long-term basis. Yeah, I think that's all from me. Jupan.
Yep.
Any final word before we conclude the video?
Yeah, I think for those who are actually concerned about how the elections would bring effects to their stock investment portfolio, you can breathe a sign of relief. But that is just, as I said, from a very local point of view, right? From the Malaysian lens and perspective, we still need to take into consideration what's happening on a global and macro scale. So let us know in the comment section if you agree with what we said or not. Then you can also voice out your opinions and we can have a healthy discussion in the comment section. But that's it for today. I hope that you enjoy our sharing. And if you want us to do similar discussions on different topics with regards to investing, let us know in the comment section what should we cover next. We will see you in the next video. And of course, don't forget to make a thumbs up on the video, like it and share it to your friends and family, and of course subscribe to the channel because it will give us more motivation to create similar videos in the future. So I think we will bid you goodbye and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.